Hi all, my name is Juha Leppänen. I'm from the Nordic think tank Demos Helsinki. Very happy to be here. My idea is to talk about what is impact and how we're going to scale the impact. And now if I get the first slide to show, that would be great. So basically, I'm talking about 4 steps we can take to get to scalable impact. The 4 steps essentially include us having to be able to identify where we want to make the impact, us identifying who we want to make the impact with, and where's the demand for the services in regards to the impact. And then the final and the most important one is collaboration, which is the key in us actually making a scalable impact. And the Nordic way, surprisingly, is mainly about having the chances and options to collaborate with different venues and different actors as well. But if you can get to the first slide, that would be awesome. Or we can start from the middle. OK, let's go back. So, like I said, how to scale impact. And there's a very strong narrative in the startup world about us kind of like wanting to have a dent in the universe, us wanting to do something meaningful, something relevant, or why else would we be here? And this is a famous quotation from who else than Steve Jobs back in the days. And this narrative kind of like goes forward. But the first step, of course, is to identify if you want to make a dent in the universe, where you make the dent at. So the key question is, where's the impact? Which are the biggest parts and biggest sectors for us having impact? Let's take a very obvious one. Let's take climate change. We all know it's a very significant issue. We all know it's something we need to tackle. So there is obviously a very big impact in us having something to do providing solutions for the climate change. But the second question, after we've identified where we want to make the impact, is of course to ask where's the demand? Who is going to pay for the services? Who is going to be able to actually have a benefit for the solutions, and so forth? In regards to climate change, in private consumption, there are 3 things that actually matter: housing, mobility, and food. These 3 take a portion, the biggest portion, of how we consume different resources and also how we consume energy. So these 3 are the key factors in regards to us having an impact to climate change. In regards to having an impact in climate change, it's also about having to see new type of startups, having to see new type of actors that emerge and start providing solutions. In addition to impact, it's about money. These 3 areas are also the areas where people spend most of their money at. This is from the EU, and you can see it on the chart very easily that housing, mobility, and food are the 3 key areas where people use their money. And I think this goes along with each and every one of us very nicely. In comparison, communications, for instance, is only a portion of the amount of money used in housing, mobility, and food. And if we think of the amount of innovations we've seen from communications or gaming or sectors such as those, it's of course been huge, and we see it here every day. So now the question is, like, what's the next step? What's the step when startups go into these markets, go into housing, mobility, and food, and really start to disrupt and provide solutions? It's not very surprising that the idea of kind of like tackling these global societal challenges where you can actually make an impact is also something that has been identified through various different actors and companies across the world. And if you look at last year, main news in regards to startups were also news about impact. So a lot of the news were having to do with Airbnb providing new ways of us living, doing housing solutions when we travel, Uber, mobility services, or Google buying Nest, things such as those that actually have to do with those 3 key sectors. So in regards to climate change, the demand is there, and we're already starting to see that. And now the question is when startups emerge and start to really tackle those issues as well. Well, the third step, which is as important as recognizing where the impact is to recognize where this talent is. And here, the key is to realize what people want to do. We did a study 2 years ago in which we realized that almost 80% of young adults here in Finland want to have meaningfulness as an important or very important characteristic in their future workplace. This is something that changes the landscape in a sense, and it's something that Guardian wrote about this fall as well, as Helsinki, as Finland, being a place where people want to make new type of startups. Startups that actually have something to do with us solving societal challenges, grand challenges, places where actual impact is being done. We were at South by Southwest last March, and there the very discussion was about purpose-driven startups, purpose-driven organizations. It was not about creating nice solutions, but about attracting the best talent. And the best talent is in solving grand challenges and societal challenges and making impact. Well, finally, and the most importantly, there's the fourth one, which is collaboration. And this is something I think we have actually quite an interesting chance here in the Nordic countries, because there's a very high level of trust. There's high level of trust towards institutions, and it's very closed in a way that there are venues through which startups and governments and NGOs can actually collaborate. Make solutions together, identify problems together. It's very easy, it's low hierarchy, it's very easy to go talk and very easy to ask for solutions. And what's nicer than have a city, for instance, the city of Helsinki here, telling a startup that we want your service, we want to have it here, we're scaling it up throughout the municipality, throughout the inhabitants of Helsinki, and so forth. One example of this is a program we're doing called Smart Retro. Smart Retro is a program done together with the city of Stockholm, city of Oslo, and city of Lahti here in Finland. And the idea there is that if you look at climate change, we know now that by 2050, half of the housing stock is already here. We're not going to rebuild entire cities. Instead, we need to figure out what we're doing with all those buildings that are existing already, how to make them energy smart, how to provide solutions that make them smarter in regards to climate change and actually have a value in making an impact through that way. So in Smart Retro, we're connecting startups, municipalities, and different actors, like big corporations in the municipalities together, and provide venue for them, kind of like a test bed, an urban test bed for the startups to actually start testing their solutions and whichever ideas they have in regards to making cities and urban environment better. The core problem, of course, like I stated, is very obvious. We all know that now we need to provide new services, and it could be that instead of us actually retrofitting the buildings, it's also about us having new mobility-oriented services, food-oriented services, housing-oriented services, smart city services, smart home services, very core services in regards to how the housing stock actually uses energy, and thus impacts the climate change. What we're doing together is we're making a program, basically. We've now picked the startups, and we're doing 2 innovation camps, one at Lahti and one at Stockholm. The first one is in December, and the second in January. And the idea there is to make actual collaboration between the municipalities, the companies, and the startups to happen. And yesterday here, we published a Startup Manifesto, and the core idea there is that this new breed of startups that I'm now talking about that actually has a scalable impact could be called smartups. So there's an additional value there for a different breed of startups that actually tackle global challenges, have an impact, and try to collaborate together in better ways. This is how it looks like. It's a list of partners we have. I think it's quite impressive because there are most of the key kind of like regional players, regional actors. And like I said, for a startup, it's a different sphere because you don't now seek an impact through a scalable product for 10 million users, but instead you want to focus, you want to solve a very local problem that then tackles a very global issue at the same time. So the model is very different, and it's made possible by the fact that the amount of money used in these 3 things, housing, mobility, and food, is such a big portion that you're able to provide solutions not only for 10 million people, but also for 10,000 people, for instance. And the impact could be as big. This is how it looks like. It's a set of startups we have. It's quite diverse. This is the group of startups we're now looking to work with for the next year. And I'm sure we'll see these startups here next at the next Slush as well. And finally, to summarize, like I said in the beginning, the 4 steps. First, identify where's the impact, then where's the demand within the impact, like which are the actual key points through which you can make the impact. Then identify the talent and be open for the talent because they really want to work with those things. And finally, collaborate, which is the key in everything here. So thank you so much. Thanks.